Hi, Hal.
How you doing this evening?
Good, and you?
Very well. Just out of curiosity, are you on the agenda for something, or are you just here because you're interested?
Well, I'm here because I'm interested, but there's also the report of the pre-audit final figures. I don't know too much about what happened last year, but whatever.
We do.
If you need me.
We'll ask you some questions and see how you handle them.
Okay, well, you don't have to do that.
Yeah, so there's Chris. How are the roads, Chris? You're talking into a muted mic there, buddy. Oh, is he driving? Ooh.
He's driving. He shouldn't be unmuting. Just
Yeah. If you're driving, you go back to the way you were.
It's actually Bluetooth. It's actually Bluetooth to the radio.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow. I have to say, I came back about lunchtime and I saw that Jennis Pond Road was sanded better than Route 107.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah, no, the truck's actually pretty nice because it's got a full 8-inch TV screen in the front. So not only are you playing on my cell phone, you're playing on my TV screen as well. So it's pretty weird.
Pay attention to the road, buddy.
Don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's Matt, Tim, Beth.
I have my seatbelt on in case people are wondering.
Okay, that was a good point. Thank you. That was a good point. On my car, it continues to beep. It never shuts off if you don't put it on.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
Same with this one.
Yeah, they used to shut off after a while, but now I don't think they do.
Right. It's not the law. You just do it because it'll drive you crazy.
Absolutely. I was looking on Amazon the other day for floor mats for the truck because I bought the WeatherTech floor mats for this, and all of a sudden I looked and I was like, "Oh, what is that?" It was it's a seatbelt key. And I'm like, "Nah, I'll probably get in trouble for that one." You plug it in, shuts it off. I'm like, "Nah, I better not."
No, I wouldn't. Yeah. So let's see. We need Pam yet. I'll be right back. There's Walter.
Good evening.
Walter.
Barely got home. It was a fun ride.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
it was a
sure.
little slippery out there.
I hope he had the truck today, not the Mustang.
Oh no, the Mustang stuck away in the winter.
You put up for the winter?
Oh yeah. Hasn't seen snow in all its life.
Timmy, I'm still putting that roll of stuff to good use.
Say that again?
I said I'm still making that roll of that stuff you gave us to good use.
I still got more of it. Let me know. I got the 6-foot roll and I got a 3-foot roll. So
I put we put a snow foil on the front of the V plow on this, and the center section is a separate one. You have to buy it $200 something for little center section. I'm like, what? So we cut the stuff apart you gave us and made one.
Nice. Yeah, I got plenty of it.
Okay. Well, actually, it's not 6 o'clock according to my watch yet. Which brings up the question, in the digital age, how do you know what's clockwise and counterclockwise if all you have to go by is this?
Right.
Something to ponder.
I still have real clocks at my house.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I need
There's
a real
only one
clock.
5 o'clock during the day. So
I know, having worked in, some industries like in manufacturing and stuff, the operators of, process facilities and like the electric companies and stuff, they actually prefer the analog dials as opposed to the numbers, because you can see at a glance whether or not things are where they should be.
Right, versus going like this, saying, is that a 5 or a 2?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we get started? And if we need to, we'll catch Pam up. So, as chair of the Northwood Select Board, and due to the state of emergency resulting from COVID-19, and in accordance with the Governor's Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, we're authorized to meet electronically. There is no physical location. Access to the meeting is via Zoom or YouTube. The board is using Zoom. The access details are provided in our meeting notice, which is also published on our website. If anyone has any problems, they should call Paul, 603-767-5540. If the board themselves has trouble with the meeting will automatically be adjourned. You might not actually have a vote for adjourning. The other thing to note is that we'll be doing things by roll call, and we'll start off with a roll call for attendance. Matt.
Present.
Beth.
Here.
Tim.
here, here.
And did we get Pam yet? We didn't get Pam yet. Okay, so we'll get started. I'll call the meeting to order. I'd like everybody to rise and pledge the nearest flag, please. Thank you, everybody. We'll now go to Citizens Forum. Does anybody want to speak for Citizens Forum? Seeing nobody wants to speak, we're going to move into ongoing business. We have minutes to approve. Do I have a motion to approve hold on, sorry, got to scroll down here. Do I have a motion? Well, first off, does anybody have any edits on the minutes from the 26th? Anybody have any edits?
Nope.
Personally, I thought they were pretty good. Okay, if there's no edits, then how about a motion to approve them as written?
So moved.
Do we have a second by Matt? Any further discussion? Hearing none. Matt?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And Hal is yes.
Oh, I didn't know if this was a formal meeting. Do we need to put bow ties and neckties on, Matt? Are we good?
I just thought I'd add a little
I
flair
don't know
to
if
the
this was
meeting.
supposed to be formal.
Wow.
I was teaching today. This is what you get on a Tuesday or a Thursday these days.
He was at another meeting with us, something to do with another meeting, Matt, that we had. We were all dressed up.
I was teaching that day too. That happens.
Yeah. Okay. Well, one of the best dressed instructors at the school, at
Thank you.
UNH. Yes.
Thank you very much.
All gussied up. There you go. Very dapper, Matt.
And let's
Pam's
see
here.
here. Pam is here.
Galaxy Orbit, she came
Oh,
in.
there she is. Okay. Well, Pam, you missed the Pledge of Allegiance and the roll call, but I'll work it in now. Pam.
Technical difficulties, I am here.
Okay, great. Okay, we're going to move it. There was no citizens forum input, but Tim, did you want to say something?
Do we have a chance to look at Walter's notes? Can we approve them now?
Wait a minute. Walter's notes?
Well, the non-public stuff, can we just approve them?
Those we should probably do in non-public
Okay.
session, just in case we have to discuss anything.
Okay,
So yeah, just to catch Pam up then, we did do the minutes. There was no adjustments on that, but how about we just give you a chance to circle back? Were you okay with them?
Yes, I was.
Okay, good. Yeah, nobody had any edits. They were in pretty good shape. Okay.
Yeah, I had to do a read. It was awful.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Walter, do you want to do that for us, please?
Oh, my pleasure. Good evening. For February 9th, 2021, our consent agenda includes an accounts payable manifest dated February 3rd, 2021. This is batch number 15332 for $1,089,338.01 lonely cent. We also have an accounts payable manifest dated February 4, 2021, which is batch number 15344 for $7,143.57. We also have a payroll manifest dated January 27th from 2021, which is batch number 15310 for $3,512.31. And finally, we have a payroll manifest dated February 10th, 2021. Actually, two. Batch number 15355 for $74,313.63, excuse me. And batch number 15356 for $1,377.77. Our accounts payable manifest dated February 3rd includes a payment to the school and also a payment to the bridge contractor for the Bow Lake Road Bridge reconstruction, which explains why it's so high.
Yeah, it's pretty big. Yeah, we have some pretty big bills there. Okay. Again, for the public, we're trying to let you know how your money's being spent. All these manifests are reviewed in advance of the meeting by the select board and actually signed. So this evening it's more formality just to let you know what we've approved, but we are going to vote on that. So do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
And a second, please?
Second,
Second, thank you. Any further discussion or points we want to make on the consent agenda? Hearing none. Beth?
Yes.
Tim?
yes.
Pam?
yes.
Matt?
Yes.
And Hal is yes. My expectation is as we go through the year, there'll be other items that maybe will be just sort of run-of-the-mill approvals that we will include that maybe wouldn't have normally come up just as manifests. But for the last several meetings, they've been mostly manifests, and so that's why there's not a lot of discussion or talk on it. Okay, I'm going to move on then. Walter, you're up for your TA report and any items that you need action from us on.
Okay, so giving you a staffing update, the laborer 2 position in the DPW has been filled, and Jeff has been put right into service. Jeff Call, you remember the board approved that conditional hire, and he's met the conditions. And he's done a good job so far. I think Chris will confirm and is quite pleased that he's on board. Scott LaCroix, our building inspector, code enforcement officer, has tendered his resignation. Charlie Smart has agreed to fill the position on an interim basis until a permanent replacement can be found. And if the board approves, we'll post that position immediately and start seeking a permanent replacement.
Would you like a motion to that effect, Walter?
Yeah, consensus will be fine to go forward with the policy as it's written for hires.
Pam, we're doing a consensus thing here, Pam. Are you in consensus with?
Thumbs up, Pam.
Yeah, yeah. We're not doing the digital thing. We're doing the, well, I guess this is digital too, but.
That was very good.
Yeah. Okay.
Hal, I broke my glasses, so I'm having some problems with my old glasses.
Oh, real? Oh, sorry to hear that. That is troubling.
I fell down a flight of stairs, broke my glasses, and shut my finger in a door. It's been tough.
Are you okay?
Yeah, that's a
Well,
pretty normal week.
Well, hold on. I think we're obligated to ask, do you feel that you're able to make good decisions tonight?
Yes, except I can't really see, like, because you guys are on my cell phone, so you're really, really tiny.
Big.
Okay. Well, we'll try to enunciate clearly.
No,
Okay.
that has nothing to do with how small you are. It's like, I can hear you.
Okay, so Walter, it sounds like you have consensus on that. You're going to move forward with it?
Yes.
Thank you.
All thumbs up. So
Yes.
we'll move forward with posting that position. A couple of other notices that didn't make the report came up recently was a resignation in the fire department. One of our part-time paramedics, Elaine Kerouac, she was covering a 24-hour shift on Thursday, submitted her resignation as well. So I think that's latest updates on our positions. The DPW pickup is.
Excuse me, one question. So are we doing exit interviews with Scott and Elaine Pirouette?
I've already done an exit interview with Scott, and
Okay.
Chief will coordinate the exit interview with Elaine.
Thank you.
You know, Beth, that's a good point. That we want to make sure we follow the policy, and that is that we do an exit interview for everybody. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. So on the DPW vehicle, as Chris mentioned, that's in service and working out well. I had a question about what we'll do with the old one. I wanted to know if the board wanted to put that up for bid, or keep it for a selectman's vehicle or something like that.
Get rid of it. I've seen it.
The
Get
pickup
rid of
truck?
it.
Okay.
So,
I'm the same as Pam. If Tim's saying anything related to a vehicle is not good, then as far as do you need consensus or emotion on that, Walter?
Just a consensus. It's against
So-
policy. Just,
So I guess I have a question. Why wasn't it turned in as a trade?
what's that?
Why didn't we trade it in?
question?
I think it was a question of value. I don't know if Chris has any more information on that. I think we did talk about a trade in that, but the value that was being considered was pretty insignificant because of getting the
That's
state
right.
bid pricing on the new vehicle.
That's right. I thought it was only a few $1,000s. It wasn't much.
Yeah, I'm not sure it was a few thousand, to be honest with you. I'm doing this from memory. I don't have them.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, I just remembered it did come up before, Beth, but it might have been in discussion, not in the meeting. Well, there's Chris.
Typically on a state bid, they're basically giving us the vehicle for cost, and they're not able to allow us anything other than what they might be able to either salvage it for, or basically whatever they can get for it, maybe make a little bit of money. So
Are you guys referring to the two-wheel drive?
Yes.
Yeah. So they wouldn't even entertain a trade-in on that because there's no value to it whatsoever.
Okay. Okay.
Say that. It's a really good
Oh,
vehicle.
yeah. It was no value to them, but somebody else might want it.
So
Okay.
I'm assuming that's why we didn't trade in for the fire vehicle as well then.
That's correct.
Okay, so are we gonna put them both up to bid then?
So
That was going to be my next question on that fire vehicle, as soon as it's ready for being turned in.
Okay, so do you need, again, a board vote or just a consensus to do this?
Just a consensus. Again, it's part of the policy for putting
So
out.
I would rather put them out to bid sooner than later and not have a tree fall on it. You know?
She's right.
We may make
Walter's
out on
pretty
that.
expeditious.
Hey, it's not a terrible thing either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
We got a police car down there too, that's right next to that 1 ton that the tree fell on, so that needs to get out of there too. So we got three or four vehicles to get rid of.
Yes, that's going up as well. I have the information on that as well.
Okay,
Yeah, we're gonna park it next to the trees.
Perfect.
okay.
Supposed to be windy this weekend.
Yeah. Moving on. From Atlantic Broadband, we received a notice in accordance with the Federal Cable Act that they are desiring to negotiate a new franchise agreement with us for cable television. As the current agreement expires in 2023, this process typically starts about 2 years ahead of its expiration because of the steps involved in going through a renegotiations of a expired contract. I've been in touch with a consortium of cities and towns in the Lakes region who have similar expiration dates with Atlantic Broadband, and wanted to see if you would consider allowing me to negotiate with them as a consortium, because it allows us to spread cost for legal amongst the group as opposed to doing it individually. And then if there was any specifics to Northwood or any of the other individual towns that need to be negotiated separately, then we would be billed separately for that, as would the other towns, so forth. So I've done this before. It's worked out quite well and saved the town a lot of money. And I believe there may have been a relationship with this group by Northwood in the past as well.
There was. That was the approach we took the last time, and we basically took the party line on pretty much everything. I don't think there was anything special or particular for our town. You may, as a result of your experience, have some suggestions for us to consider, and we can obviously take them up as you come up with them. What do you need from us to proceed on that basis?
I would like a motion and an approval to authorize the town administrator to pursue joining a group of Lakes Region cities and towns known as the Lakes Region Cable TV Consortium for the purpose of collectively negotiating a new franchise agreement with Atlantic Broadband.
So you said to pursue as opposed to act on. Is that your intent there?
Absolutely.
Okay, so
I have preliminary approval for them to accept us, but I didn't want to make a commitment without having the board approval, obviously. So
I mean, your motion said to pursue, for us to allow you to pursue joining the consortium. Do you want approval to join the consortium?
If they accept us, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, use your personality on that then.
Well, I've already started that. And
Yeah. Okay.
I'll keep working on it.
Yeah. Okay. So do we have a motion to that effect by anybody?
so moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Second. Okay. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Tim, how do you feel?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Thank you. Matt?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
And Hal is yes. Okay. Thank you, Walter. What's next?
So next, I believe you saw the notice from the Hampshire DOT of January 15th that they are planning a bridge maintenance project which carries Route 107 over the Narrows Brook. The notice addresses the possibility of impacting the brook or wetlands and may require some mitigation. They're requesting a list of preferred or priority mitigation efforts that the town may have. Planning Board, the Conservation Commission, and a number of other departments, in addition to the Select Board, have also received copies. And I was advised by Linda that the Conservation Commission has already responded to DOT with some suggested projects if in fact they needed to do a mitigation project because of impacts in this particular area. So it's basically an FYI, but it has been addressed at this point.
I do have one question if nobody else on the board has any points or suggestions to make. So Walter, my question is on page 3 of their letter, which is page 15 of our packet. It says tentatively the date for this project is winter 2020. Is that really correct? Meaning that they're going to still try to get it done like in March, or is that maybe the wrong year?
I believe it's the wrong year. We tried to confirm that and didn't get a response as of yet, but we believe it's the winter of 2021.
Okay. Yeah, it just didn't make sense,
Right.
given that they're only asking for input now, that they try to then go ahead with it and get it done within a month or so. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this is the one where we said we're going to be holding up traffic and everything, so we better give folks more advanced notice than that. Matt?
So also in their letter to us, they were asking for input on like cultural or natural resources, not just the waterways and the wetlands and stuff, but I know that when we were looking at the playground project, we had to go through the Department of Historical Significance or whatever, as well as the natural resources. Are they making those queries, or is that on us to do that and then report back? Because the way the letter sounds, it sort of sounds like they're putting it on us to tell them if the state has any specific issues. Does that make sense?
I'm reading that too, but it says that this letter has been sent to the following departments or commissions, which includes the Heritage Commission. Is that a state commission?
Yeah, because they've got a listing of like all the historic stone walls and stuff all the way down to that level. And then for example, again, using the playground as an example, they had spotted a Blandings turtle a quarter mile away. So now during construction, we have to post pictures of the Blandings turtle to make sure that one isn't, trying to crawl by while we're building. So again, I'm just trying to make sure that I would like to think that the state goes to the state to run those questions. If it's on us, then somebody needs to do it.
Yeah. Well, Walter, is that something you can confirm, or?
From my experience, I've done these projects before. The state is responsible for going through and submitting their application to them as well, just like we are as a town if we have a project. I think what they're asking for here, if there's anything that might be just unique and not necessarily known as part of the registry and so forth, that it gives the town an opportunity to bring that to their attention and so forth. And just, whether it be, maybe even something of local folklore, that's
Okay.
out there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you, Walter.
That's the Joneses used to travel on that particular piece of property for, 500 years on their left foot. Those types of things is what they're looking for.
Okay. Tim, did you want to add something?
I don't know does the state know that side road is closed down, so they're gonna be able to, if they're gonna detour traffic, it ain't gonna happen?
Oh, we had that discussion and we had to tell them what we wanted to do. And based on the recommendation of the police chief, we are going to put traffic lights on Route 107 and have a one-way as opposed to trying to route people around or do anything. Now, Glenn admits that, the locals may know and, try to do a couple other things, but the primary and, especially the heavy truck trafficking and stuff, he expects will just, wait at the light, go through and stuff. But that, I believe, was a decision. Matt, do you remember? That was a decision made early last year, I believe.
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah. So yeah, it won't be any side road detours. It's just stoplight, wait your turn, come through and go back out. Anything else on that? Okay, so Walter, I assume you'll just ride herd on making sure we get all the input that we need to from the town perspective?
Yes, will do.
Thank
Yep. All right, moving on to the next item, which is the meals and rooms revenue, which I sent out information to you last week, and there was actually a committee that took up the bill yesterday. Yeah, excuse me, yesterday, but I wanted to make sure that it became part of the public meeting that that this bill is coming forward, and this has to do with the distribution of meals and rooms revenue to the cities and towns, which basically lost a great deal of revenue, about 1.6 million over 10 years to the town of Northwood, based on the fact that the state froze the contribution to the cities and towns statewide back in 2011. So this will hopefully go through, and it seems to be well supported as far as the sponsors of the bill and so forth. There was a number of senators and representatives that sponsored this particular bill, and I think maybe it's got some legs under it that it might actually move forward and be approved at some point in time, which I think would be a great benefit to the town to receive what we're really entitled to in the future as far as that revenue is concerned. So it's just a matter of keeping an eye on it, and I'll keep you posted as it moves along in the process and see if it actually gets go forward for a vote and how it gets recommended out of committee and so forth. And hopefully citizens who will have the opportunity to weigh in as well. COVID now affords everybody the opportunity to weigh in electronically on these different bills and so forth. So it's a matter of just a click and a check mark to show your support or show your opposition now. So wanted to make sure we had had that noted in the minutes.
Yeah, and it's a good analysis, Walter. So just so folks that are listening are clear on this, over the course of 10 years, the average amount that we were shorted is approximately $150,000 to $160,000 a year. It's not a small number, obviously. And as Walter said, when you want to weigh in on this, it's relatively easy. I know that when I did it, it's just as Walter said, you can click to show your support. You can click to indicate you're a town official, you're a citizen or whatever. There's even room to put a comment. And I don't know if I clicked something special or what, but I also got an opportunity to write an email. And then they respond back when you send that. And I responded back to that saying, hey, now that I have the calculations, seeing how big this is, I really want to say that you should not only reinstate this, but figure out how to catch us back up from what you didn't pay us in the past. So we'll see how that goes. But Matt?
So I'm wondering if it makes sense for us to vote to give Walter the opportunity to speak for us as testimony when this comes out of committee and goes to the floor, because it's not always with as much advance notice as you'd like to have. And I do think giving testimony, even if it's a quick 2-minute speaking for the Board of Selectmen in Northwood, it's a nice reminder to our reps and our senator that we are in fact in support of this, beyond just having clicked the link or sent the email.
Would you consider doing it in lieu of none of us being able to attend and do that personally?
Yeah, sure. I think that's a great way to do it too.
Okay.
And Walter, I don't know if you're even comfortable with it from that perspective. It's not, this would be us asking you to provide that testimony as opposed to you as a citizen. I don't know if that's something that TAs typically do or do not do.
I've done it several times.
Yeah, I've gone there. It's an interesting process.
Oh, it's a lot of fun, and I've done it a bunch of times. But I think it would be useful to have one of us provide testimony as opposed to simply clicking the link.
Yeah. Okay. So Matt, you want to make a motion to have Walter provide in-person testimony if a select board member cannot do it.
I will make that motion.
Okay, do we have a second on that?
Second?
Second, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Pam, how do you vote?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Matt,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
and Hal is yes. Good point, Matt. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, excuse me. For the 2019 DRA cyclical monitoring report, provided you a copy of that in your packet. DRA monitors the field work of our contract assessor for the Department of Revenue, and using a random selection of property cards, they look for accuracy of the property record card information with a site visit. Cross-country appraisals report showed minimal impact errors on the 4 samples that was reported on. And I think for the most part, there was no significant deficiency in their data collection for this past year for the 2019 cycle.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like everything was pretty nominal. The biggest delta was, I think, $5,000 on one item, on one. All the others were probably less than $1,000 impact, which is pretty good considering that our values are up around 250. So, yeah. So is that a typical number that they check, spot check, just for?
It depends how many they've done in the cycle, but yeah, that's fairly typical. You know, they kind of just, you know, use a small, obviously it's a random sampling. So,
Yeah.
you know, the contractor has no idea which ones they're going to pick. So that
Right.
usually indicates consistency throughout the whole batch of work. And, you know, unless you pick all the ones that were done on a Monday or a Friday, then it's like,
Yeah.
you know, building cars, you know, those aren't the ones you want to buy. But,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a good it's a good sampling of their work and a reflection of it.
Yeah. Well, not to belabor the point, but I think also, you know, when we look at the revenues, there hasn't been a lot of movement so far relative to the overlay, which would be the money we set aside to handle adjustments in taxes. So I think that's maybe perhaps another indication that we're okay too.
Yeah, I mean, the abatements are still under review by the assessor, and we'll be receiving those up until the end of February. But
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, I think from what the indication we had from the hearings, there wasn't a lot of significant changes that were going to be forthcoming.
No, I know some people asked to be remeasured and things like that, which again would reflect what happened here on this test.
Mhm.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, let's move on, Walter.
So on the trustees of trust funds request that was approved back on January 26, they got a report back, comment back from Betsy stating that actually the amount that we requested was really the town's portion of the non-covered perpetual care cemeteries, and that in fact that was something that should come out of the town's budget, as we actually did pay for it. So it looks like going forward for the 2021 contract, we might try to specify how those bills are broken down so that it can be clear about you know, what portion or percentage of the cemetery plots were being maintained under the perpetual care funds versus, you know, the non-perpetual care fund covered cemeteries. And so that to me makes sense. And going forward, we'll make sure that that gets clarified better and billed and distributed accordingly. So
Yeah,
that reimbursement won't be coming back in as was requested.
Okay, so you're going to make sure though that we have it documented as to how it gets proportioned in the future so that it's clear on the record what it's supposed to be.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on that? Go ahead, Pam.
My only question was, why, like with this contractor not being paid for a period of time, why were we not notified of this obligation to the town out of budget funds, as opposed to, rather than let the bills sit there? It would have been a nicety to have had clarity on this in advance.
Go ahead, Walter.
Well, I think there was some discussions that I wasn't 100% familiar with that took place with John Scruton when the 2021 budget was being prepared. And I think that was kind of worked out then, but I didn't understand that it was applicable for this year, 2020 as well. So I think that's where some of the confusion came in between, John leaving and my coming and that type of thing. So.
Well, there's that, Walter. And then I think also, if I recollect the trustee of the trust fund minutes correctly, they also now have decided that when the bills come in, the best process is for us to pay them immediately via the town and then request reimbursement. And I think by doing that, then Pam, your point, we'll pay them right away. And then it's just a matter of the internal transfer of funds to make all the books square up the appropriate way. So I think your point is, in part, thanks to the trustees' decision, we should be able to do this much more expeditiously, especially now that Cheryl's getting on board and, really cranking through the invoices and stuff. Matt?
Good.
So can you just clarify for me, is this the entire bill was town share and the other share had already been processed through the trustees, or since we're unable to figure out the exact ratios, we're saying forget it and we will just not seek reimbursement this year?
I think my understanding is that I think that basically the bill was pretty much equal to what the percentage was, within a couple of $100 of what it should be, going forward. So I think it was, basically agreed that this would be kind of an equalizing, for 2020, and then be more definitive for 2021 from a contract and a billing standpoint of view.
Okay, but the perpetual care mowing did get covered through the trustees for last year.
Yes, that share.
Per the original procedure, which meant that the bill came to them and they paid it
Right.
directly. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Matt, if you remember, during the budget process, the recommendation was that next year going forward, our amount, was approximately $2,000. So this is right in the ballpark.
Yep, it's in the ballpark. Yep, no, I'm fine. I just wanted to confirm that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
And the only other thing I had on my list is just the upcoming meetings. Obviously tonight, meeting again on the 23rd, and deliberative session we know will be off in May and voting back off in June. So that's all I have at this point.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions in terms of any of the packet information or information Walter sent out? Pam and then Beth? You're muted, Pam.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Walter. I've been requesting either via Beth or via Susan for a direct email of the Zoom meeting link. And that was one of my problems tonight, is I had trouble logging in because I was trying to go off of the PDF and working with my cell phone and data plan. It lagged me and I ended up in a zone. So if we could have Paul, when he sends out the packet PDF, if he could include the link within his email so that we could click the link from the email, not the PDF, it would be a really big deal for me.
Something's changed on that, Pam. I used to go into the Adobe and click on the link and it worked. Tonight, it did not.
Mine did.
It
I
did for you?
opened up the packet he sent out. I clicked on join Zoom, bang, 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 and
It worked fine for me too.
It didn't work for me. I had to copy and paste it into the address.
So
Okay,
Walter, when you meet about Atlantic broadband, that's an issue too.
there you go. Okay, but Pam, yeah,
And
Walter will try to work something out with him on
yeah,
that.
I mean, if it's in the, if the link is right in the email for Hal, for myself, for like tonight, with you had trouble with the PDF, certainly that would have been a godsend to have that link. And yeah, Atlantic broadband, whatever, go for that. But did you know that Starlink is running their beta run, and I got notification that can maybe take a look at Starlink. So I'll keep you updated on that.
Okay, good deal. Beth, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I had a couple of things. So, Walter, we were talking about doing vehicles up for bid. I happened to go on our website, and we still have 2 vehicles up for bid on the website. The Chevy 3500, and then the International we said we were going to keep because we're actually plowing with that.
Mhm.
So
I think that he can take it down.
if we fix that, and then I noticed I have it pulled up here. It was your weekly report. So the fire chief is saying in his little segment that he's all set with the Explorer, the old command car that can be put up to bid. So if we put those 3 up, and then I don't know if we still have the 3500, the old Chevy.
That's the one that got crushed.
Okay,
It's
so
still there.
so if we just update that and then add those 3, I had that question. And then finance wrote that she's all moved. Where's the new finance office? I haven't actually been into the town hall for a few weeks.
The old copy room.
Okay, all right.
What we originally had talked, it was
Yes,
just delayed till we got everything in place.
Yep.
Anybody else have?
We put her in the center school.
There you go.
Be careful,
She's in that little shoe shop.
careful.
No.
Okay.
Where?
No, it would have been better, but no, you would have been all on your own and cold.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah. Walter, I did have a couple questions, and actually maybe they're more for Cheryl. They had to do with the revenue report that you sent out. The federal funds, I assume those were the COVID funds, the $144,000 on revenue for the
Yes.
federal. Okay.
Yes.
And then the miscellaneous revenue, what was that? That down near the bottom, Cheryl.
And I don't have the answer to that in front of me, right? But I will look at it tomorrow and I will send it out to everybody, whatever I find out.
Yeah. Otherwise things look good. Now the property taxes, they're versus the estimate, not versus the bill. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So we still may be down at that 5% level that we were talking about before. And then I guess ditto on the motor vehicle registrations. That's our estimate, not, but that looks good too. So I guess there's nothing to really worry about there. Okay, so yeah, if you could just get me the miscellaneous revenue, what that
Certainly.
is.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Anything else on the reports? Walter?
I did have one other thing that was a request from the Recreation Committee, and maybe Matt wants to speak to this, about beginning the search for the Recreation Director. The committee has requested that we start that process.
Yeah, we had a meeting the other night and basically discussed the options of with town meeting being pushed off. That's one of the few places where it really does put us in a bit of a bind. And the feeling of the rec commission was they'd rather start the process of looking for someone in the current part-time position, with the understanding that if things go one way and the budget gets passed, then there's the potential for a full-time position if they're the right person for that. I think the general feeling of the commission was that the longer we wait, the tougher it gets to find anybody, as spring is prime time for hiring recreation folks. So, and then we're going to start quickly getting pretty slammed in terms of the timeline to hopefully be able to do some summer programming and whatnot. So that was the commission's hope, is that we'd approve the posting of a part-time position.
Do we need a vote or a consensus, Walter?
It's an existing position, so just a consensus to fill it.
Anybody want to speak against it? Tim? Or were you thumbs up? Or
Yeah, just not against it, but I just a couple questions. What were we offering, or what was the pay and all that stuff? Just for, can we, Matt, any,
Order of,
not to put you on the spot, what was it?
order of magnitude 50K.
That's full
That
time.
was for the
That's
full time,
full-time.
yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah. Oh,
we'd
sorry.
be back to basically the budget line for this year, that, you know, assuming it were going to be like the default. So we'd have a little wiggle room being vacant for January, February, but it would be in the, I'm trying to remember what the last couple were making.
Wasn't it like around 22?
I was going to say 23, so we're in that neighborhood.
I thought it was less than 26. Okay, that's what I just,
Yep.
we're all in the same, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, no. Consensus.
Okay, good. Anybody? Okay, so I think everybody gave a thumbs up then. So let's do it.
Okay, well, we'll go through the process and look at the job description and make sure it's current and inclusive of what we want. Because it would be important to have that prepared as well as the part-time description, so that in the event that the position is approved, the funding's approved for the position, that the person has the skills to transition into that position.
Yep, I agree.
Well, maybe I can send those to you, Matt, and I'll
Sure.
send them along to Ashley as well to get some feedback on that, because I understand if it does go full time, it's going to eliminate the other position that was.
Yep, the league coordinator will be on. So we're going to need somebody who can effectively run a sports league, and but that should be anybody who's looking at the job, I would imagine. But there's also some really specific stuff that the commission's looking for, like getting some adult programming and old senior programming up and running, and trying to put some money into the. What's that?
You called the seniors old. I didn't like that.
I didn't say old. I said
The old programming.
older adult. That's actually the correct terminology.
I heard old senior too, Hal, so my hearing.
Older adult. So
Okay.
adult and older adult programming.
Yeah, there you
And
go.
I think that's going to be that's one of the big areas that the commission's looking for. So making it clear that we're not looking for somebody to do what's been done the last couple of go rounds.
Yeah.
So I think the job description before said I need to be a lifeguard. So if that's something, if the commission's looking not to do lifeguard lessons again, that might be something you want to tweak. That might take some people out of the running. So
that's a good example of something that could be taken out.
Again, that doesn't prohibit us from doing lessons. We'd have to hire somebody certified to do the lessons, but that person
I wouldn't
wouldn't
want that to
necessarily.
be a requirement, then someone that doesn't have it doesn't think about that. So.
Yeah.
I do think that was a requirement for the beach coordinator position, though, not the rec director.
Oh.
The rec director, it was. I know
It was?
someone put that in there a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Take a look at that.
Okay, so you're okay to move forward on that then, Walter? It sounds like.
Yes, we'll start that process.
Okay, anything else on your report or questions related to the pack that was sent out, the info pack? If not, then we're going to move on to the board rules, position description, and code of ethics. I think Walter actually sent this out twice. Thank you, because I did have trouble locating it the first time around. I guess my question is, how does the board want to handle this? I have some questions and comments. And perhaps you do too. So my thought was that maybe we just do a quick, circle around the board. They can ask questions or make their comments, and then maybe Walter, if you were to take notes and come back with some revisions or adjustments based on those comments or questions or recommendations based on those. Are people comfortable taking that approach, or does somebody have a different suggestion in terms of how we'd like to handle it?
Fine.
Okay, do we want to start with the job description? And I'll open it up. Does anybody have any points or questions they want to make on the job description? Matt.
That would be,
I'm sorry, Pam, do you want to go ahead?
yeah, just general summary of duties performed. It doesn't say job description. So are you referring to that sheet?
Hold on, I'll tell you which one I'm referring to. I am referring to MX M4071 2021
Oh, you're looking
02.
at the file name.
Yeah.
I'm looking at paper.
Yes,
Okay.
Pam, anything that doesn't say chapter on top, he's looking at that one first.
Yeah, it says Town of Northwood,
Yeah.
position select, Board of Selectmen.
General summary of duties performed.
Oh, yes. Oh, sorry. Yes, further down it says, yes. Yes, that's the
Thank
one.
you.
Yeah. Okay.
Gotcha.
So Matt, you had some points you wanted to make?
Yeah, so I think one of the big things we need to look at is standing committees with board reps.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
and that's fairly low hanging fruit.
Yeah. So there's a couple parts to this. I guess the one is not just the standing committees, Matt, but also the ex officio, because I think Walter pointed out the last time that, or somebody brought it up, that zoning is not an ex officio office.
Yeah, we got into, I think it's a semantics issue, right? So my definition of ex officio has always included being a non-voting member, but I don't think that's the case with the understanding here.
Yeah, I think based on what Walter said, ex officio is meant to mean that as a result of us being on the select
Correct.
board, we have a official seat on that committee.
Right.
That's correct.
As opposed to the select board representative to other committees.
So we have a voting on each committee.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're just like any other member, and it's as a result of us being a select board member. And Walter, you're saying that is not the case for zoning, correct?
That's correct. Not by statute.
Right. Okay. So then, Matt, the related question for me is in the other one of the other documents, and I believe it is the it's not the code of conduct, it's the other one. It's the bylaws. You know, there is a list of let me see if I can find it. A list of appointments and stuff. It's section 68-8, where it lists off a bunch of them. Budget Committee, Planning Board, Economic Development, Cable Advisory, Highway Advisory, Facilities, Technology, and Recycling.
So now, Walter, statutorily, right? Can we start there?
Yeah.
By statute, we need someone on budget and on planning.
Right.
Is that it?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, I believe that's it.
Yeah. And so, Matt, I don't know if you're going where I was going, but I think we need to define those.
Correct.
And then for all the other ones, I think we need to find a way to say either here's a suggested list or here's a recommended list that's reviewed by the incoming board each time there's a new election, because on some of these things change. I don't know that we've had a cable advisory for quite a while, and I don't know that we need one, but there might be some other equivalent for the newsletter or, something else like that. And then the other thing that bothered me related to this is that we have two different documents with two different sets of parameters around this. And I'd like either the one to reference the other or vice versa or something so that we're not always trying to keep two documents in sync. And I guess I was thinking that if we had, however you said it, by statute, we have these two and the rest are by consensus of the board and, you know, the vote at the start of the season, so to speak. I think that might be the best way to play it.
Yeah, I think we should take a page out of Congress's book and institute basically an organization day.
There you go.
Written into the bylaws, right? And then we could basically just say all committees assigned during the Selectmen's organization day, including but not limited to, and then run the litany of potential committees and commissions.
Yeah. How do others feel about that approach? That's really that's along the lines that I was thinking, and I think that's a nice approach. But you know, Beth, how do you feel?
Congress gets raises. They don't really work a lot.
Well,
So
I think we have to refrain from political, please. But we could serve as a good example.
Oh, term limits then.
Yeah. Well, Walter, how do you feel about that?
Well, from my experience working in other towns, typically those positions would be labeled as liaisons, committee liaisons. Except for the ones that have, statutory authority or statutory positions on those other committees and so forth. And so, you know, after the elections every year in spring, typically the boards I've worked with would just go through the committees, and then depending on, you know, the makeup of the board, people would, you know, express an interest in serving as the liaison to that committee, so that it's basically it's a line of communications to the committees back to the select board, which to me I found for the most part works pretty well.
Yeah, now that you say that, you know, on one of the documents there was also, you know, the liaison to the school board, which again, we wouldn't have a vote on that or, you know, really any means of influence, but we would get information back. So how are folks comfortable if Walter takes that approach, breaks them apart like that? Anybody opposed to that?
And then typically the committee structure, the committee charter basically has the makeup of the of the committee itself, and would, you know, name a representative from the select board, a representative from the school board, a representative from wherever. So that way there, it would kind of clarify, okay, does this committee need a board member or does it not need a committee, need a board member?
Would the charter theoretically define if that selectman's rep had a vote or not, for example?
Typically, yes, or not as well.
Right.
But a lot of times, as I said, in most of those committees, it's a non-voting position because the purpose is not to influence, but is there just to be the conduit.
To bring info back. Yep.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm hearing a general consensus on this approach. Does anybody want to add anything before we task Walter with trying to make those changes on that? Okay, Walter, then I guess that's one of your items for adjustments. Other comments by anybody? Matt or Beth or Pam or Tim? I did have a couple others, if I may. So again, this has to do with sort of conflicting documents. The one document says that we're going to use Robert's Rules of Order, and the other one says we're going to use an informal parliamentary procedure. And I guess I'm more in favor of that informal parliamentary procedure, because Robert's Rules it's about a 200-page book, and there's a lot of nuances in there that make the process very complicated, or can make the process complicated. Whereas if you look at the way we've handled deliberative sessions and things like that, it's more basically a very simple parliamentary process. And we could even, adopt like Keith's rules if we wanted to formally, but we're essentially following what moderators in the past, including Robbie and myself, actually have used. So I think just saying informal is fine, but I'd like both documents to be consistent if we could, please.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, Pam. I was looking down at my notes.
I will stand up for Robert's Rules of Order. I think it's important. I do think that it is a standard, and it has certain procedurals and finesses that can seldom, but sometimes come into play to save a meeting. As far as motion, whether or not a motion carries, the whole bit, and a certain informality is nice, and it does move our meetings forward well, and you do conduct yourself well. But you never know in the future, whatever, if someone isn't as delightfully informal as yourself, you may not want to have an informal thing in the bylaws or in the code of conduct. I almost feel like Roberts should be a standard that is loosely held within our meetings, that it would be something that would be the fallback to, no, this is not the procedure. And there are times when it might save from difficulty.
I'm going to try to respond to that, but I'll let Matt speak first.
Well, I just want to say that there's going to be aspects of parliamentary procedure that are important. For example, who can motion to reconsider, right? I mean, if anybody can motion to reconsider, then someone who lost could just keep motioning and keep motioning and keep motioning. So I think it's important to have some safeguards in place to preserve the functional aspects of a meeting.
I'll tell you the feedback that I was going to give, and Matt, you make an excellent point, and I think it's really essentially what Pam was saying. There are some things that we don't want to lose that are in Robert's rules. And I guess what I'm going to suggest is what the lawyers have always told me when I was asking them about this at the deliberative sessions. And they said, make up your own list of rules based on that, and they can just be the 5 or 6 simple parameters that, some of which you mentioned, Matt, some of which, like I say, Keith or I have already written up, so that you don't lose those points. And then I guess, Pam, to your point, if we only leave it as Robert's rules, if somebody doesn't know the rules or it applies them incorrectly, it ends up being then a disaster from a meeting perspective.
Yes and no, and it can also save.
Yeah,
for procedural.
What I'm wondering is,
it's a double-edged sword.
Would you be willing to consider taking some of the best points of Robert's rules and a simplified form of them, or do you feel we need to stick? Go ahead.
No, I would say that. To be able to go in and go with a streamlined procedural based on Roberts, and then somewhere within it have a notation that in areas of dispute or this, that, and the other, that Roberts rules would apply.
Okay.
Because you could get into. There are people that do know Roberts and know Roberts very well. And, you'd want to have that somehow in there as an asterisk or something that, when in doubt, you go to Roberts.
Matt, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I actually just with a quick Google search found an NHMA publication from a few years back titled Parliamentary Procedure in Local Government. And it does a really nice job of laying out it looks like 7 or 8 big things that need to be codified. And then they're saying, beyond that, don't go too crazy. But yeah, and I'd be happy to read off those big ones, or we can just, I can forward this to folks too. But I think it would be a nice middle ground.
Okay. And then Walter, you want to say something?
Well, if you look at the, you know, the bylaws that we're referencing, it simply states that, you know, Robert's rules shall serve as a guideline with a vote of the board being the final authority. So, you know, I don't think this locks the board into operating under Robert's rules. I think it just provides a guideline, and that that if the board wants to go to a different process or a different rule on any decision, then it does, you know, say that the final decision, the final authority will be a vote of the board. So just to, you know, put weight on it.
Okay, so I think if we take what, you know, Matt, if you would be willing to send that and share it.
Yep.
We could say that that's sort of like the starting point, and then Pam, as you said, you know, we can ask or look for guidance from Robert's rules. And then, you know, now that you say that, Walter, you know, that's right in the announcement that we make as moderators. You know, the body is allowed to make up whatever rules they darn well please. At their peril, of course, but
Right.
so, you know, maybe that covers all bases, and I think that'd be good. So Matt, if you share that, then we can use that as a starting point.
Already sent.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Mel.
Thanks. I guess that was about it for me. Does anybody else have any other points or comments? No, if not, then how about we wrap this up? Walter, do you have enough to go on?
I think so. I'll obviously just, you know, make the changes in draft and send them around and get your consensus as to whether I've captured the two things that we wanted to, you know, modify.
Okay, sounds good. Do we want to move on to the bylaws next? I mean, it was sort of like an overlapping discussion, but does anybody want to add anything or edit anything relative to the bylaws? I'm just looking at my notes here. We covered the ex officio.
Walter, I'm curious if the scratched out 3 and 5 was on this document, or if that was your work before it got sent out.
That was me.
Okay, good. Good. There is some overlap between this and the job description. That, I guess, is that an issue in your mind, Walter, or is that not to be worried about?
You know, again, as long as there's no direct conflict, you know,
Okay.
between one and the other, as you mentioned, you know, a little overlapped. I think the job description is extensive and very detailed, and is probably beneficial to someone thinking about, you know, the position. So I think that's good from that standpoint of view. So there's an understanding, and then the bylaws kind of lock in, you know, the process and the procedure and so forth.
Okay. Matt, did you want to?
So I found one thing interesting in the bylaws, which was section 86-9, which is amendment to board bylaws. The way that reads would lead me to believe that we can amend the bylaws at any time with a simple majority, which I find a little surprising in terms of amending bylaws. I would expect that to have a higher threshold.
Well, right now we could have changed that.
Yeah, I mean, we can change it with a simple majority right now to require 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally think that bylaws need to be flexible, but not readily flexible, similar to the Constitution, right? So it needs to be a living document, but you don't want to go messing with it too often. So I don't know. I just want to, you know, I'd be interested in other folks' take on that.
It was probably, you know, obviously adopted when it was only a 3-person board. So,
Right.
so maybe.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, so maybe with a 5-person board, a super majority makes more sense. I'd be willing to go along with that, and it doesn't kill it in terms of, you know, if somebody really has a disagreement with something. How about we do this? How about we let Walter work through all the things, and then that could be maybe one of the additional things we vote on, because if we make some changes to the bylaws as a result of our earlier discussion, there'll be other things that we might need to change on that. You with me on that, Matt?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
We just need to keep in mind the way it's currently written is that we can discuss it today. We could actually finalize a proposed amendment, and we can't vote on it until the next meeting. So if we discussed it at our next meeting, we wouldn't be able to vote on anything until the one after. But there's no rush on this.
Yeah, okay. If you're willing to wait, maybe we just.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Do them part and parcel. Other comments, Tim?
Just another on 86-5, the meetings, it says B, the workshops. I've been in the past as a town resident showing up to town hall with, the old boards in the past and saying, this is a workshop session. It's closed to the public. We're not voting on anything. We're just discussing stuff coming up. And I wasn't let into the meeting. So I just read that the other day and realized, the last 10 years, I've probably 3 or 4 times, I've shown up to town hall. What are you guys going to talk about tonight? Oh, just a workshop meeting. We're going over this and that, and that, but wasn't let in. So I want to make sure that's
Open to the public.
Yeah, that's not okay.
That was not okay then.
so,
I mean, perhaps the only subject was a non-public portion, but if it's not a non-public, they're allowed to listen. There's no question on that. Walter?
Well, there may have been some confusion that there wouldn't be any public input. Typically, there's no public
Oh,
input.
maybe that's, yeah.
But certainly you
Public
can't,
input.
you can't restrict the public from attending. But I think that may have been the point, was that typically a workshop would just be for the select board to do their work and not take public input either separately or during the course of the meeting. So that may have been the case.
Yeah, actually, now that you say that, Walter, that's the way the planning board is. Exactly. Matt?
Is it worth in that same section having the subpoint E discussing basically what that a meeting with council is a non-meeting, or does that get muddy under the section labeled meetings?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, meetings with council aren't really addressed, are they? How about we just add that as a point for Walter to consider instead of trying to pigeonhole it at this point?
Meeting with council, non-public.
Well,
It's not that it's non-public, it's not a meeting.
It's not a meeting.
It's not a meeting.
It's so that it's clear to folks.
And I that might be addressed in 91A.
Oh, that's a good point, Walter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you research it and let us know what we need to do?
Yep.
I think that was a.
Where the heck is 91A?
No, that's the RSA, not the
Oh, I'm
section
sorry,
of the
that's-
bylaw.
that's-
Oh, I gotcha. I'm like, I only have up to 86.
Okay.
But you guys
Other-
have more papers than I do?
okay, moving on. I gotta go plow quick. Hurry
Yep.
up.
Okay, so does anybody have anything for conduct? I guess, hearing none, I guess I'm just going to say, oh, go ahead, Tim.
Well, I got, the other day, I printed off bylaws, ordinance number 10-05 on top, and then I just printed off bylaws chapter 86 the other day. So I don't know which one I got sent out. Yes, I don't know, 1, 2. Scott Holden, Mr. Breyer, Mr. Holden, and Alden Dill was the selectman back then. And I got, but a different ordinance one. Are we discussing that? Is that just junk?
The ordinance and the bylaws should be exactly the same.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, so what I was going to move the discussion on to was the conduct of town officials, which has a chapter 36 at the top of it.
Yep. Okay. I got that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And my only question on that one, Walter, is, and you know, you're new, so I guess you won't really know, but at the bottom, it says a copy of this will be provided to all town employees, elected and appointed officials, committee, and subcommittee members for their review and signature upon appointment. And I looked at what I have in my file relative to like when I was select board or moderator or whatever, and it was just a simple oath of office. It did not include this document. it, are we remiss in not having this as a signed copy of this?
Yes.
Okay,
I just brought it to the attention of the town clerk too.
okay,
That, when she administers the oath, that, the people should acknowledge that as the conduct of public officials ordinance.
okay. So in your opinion, given that now we're waiting for the election till June, does it make sense for us to preemptively ask those already serving to sign, or do we just wait till the election and the reappointments and everything?
Well, basically, I would say yes. That's what I would do. Just
Okay,
get it,
get it.
just get them updated when the new appointments of the new electees are sworn in.
Okay. Does anybody have a problem with that approach? I don't know that we need to make any extra work for us here.
Yeah.
If we have problems with somebody, we can refer them to that and just say, look, it's an ordinance. You might not have been aware of it, might not have signed it when you got in, but it's an ordinance, you got to follow it. So, okay, I'm comfortable with that then. Anything else on that item?
I just have one last little thing, and again, this is something that's going to be covered in RSA, so it may not need to be specifically listed here. But we got the conflict of interest section, but
Yeah.
and then I'm just the board conflicts. Is that worthwhile putting in somewhere in this document too? So you cannot be a selectman also serving on.
I think that's statute, Matt, and I don't
It
think
is statute. I think it's since it's in
Incompatible offices.
incompatible offices. Thank you. That's
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
literally been trying to think of it for the past 90 seconds.
Yeah.
So since it's codified, we don't need to worry about it here.
Right.
I think if it's in state, statutes. I mean, and that we should actually catch, as part of the election process. Okay, anything else? Okay, well, I thought that was a good discussion. How about we move on then? Perhaps for me, the most exciting part of the meeting, the task manager.
I thought we were gonna post a newsletter.
Oh, no.
He was going to take a bio break.
Oh, okay, yeah. 4-minute recess for bio break?
I was only kidding.
Well, I'm not.
Now that you've said it, it's too late. Yeah.
All right, Tim.
So Matt, do your classes run late into the afternoon or evening or?
Let's see, Tuesdays and Thursdays I teach until 3:30, so not terrible.
So not too bad.
Although it took a little extra time getting home today.
Mm.
There was a big accident on the way out of Durham that had traffic stopped, so I took a nice long detour.
Yeah. Yeah, that traffic circle, I still am not quite used to the 2 lanes in it. I just don't know how to use that properly.
And that's what it is. I think for those of us who drive it every day, it's great. For
Yeah.
those who don't, it's a little confusing.
Yeah, so I always just stay in the outermost lane and do what I need to do. And
Yep.
some people tell me, oh, that's might not be correct.
It's not correct. If you're going more than 2, you're doing it right. So I'm actually friendly with the chief of police in Lee, and he was saying,
Tommy?
Yeah, I've been friends with Tom for a long time. And when it first went in, the first month or 2 was just daily accidents at that thing, and then it tapered off.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, Mr. Colby, while we're waiting here, I just gonna let you know that my snowblower happens to be busted. So if you find yourself on the east side, feeling generous, you know where my driveway is.
They're plowing Cobram right now, so I should be there. So we're gonna get to rolling.
There you go. We'll get moving.
I might be able to fix the transmission in my old one. It just slips a little.
Picking a new one up tomorrow. It was time anyways. This thing had lived its life.
Yeah.
Matt, that letter you sent out the other day, for all of us, the state there for that, I forget what, do you have a copy of that? You're
Sure.
gonna write something for, in lieu of all of us supporting, geez, I'm drawing a blank now. At the last meeting, you were gonna draw something up and send it in, like you only had like a couple hours left to send something in for us.
Yep.
Not a big deal.
Yeah, did I not send it out to you guys?
I thought I saw it.
I don't think I got it.
I'll make sure I get it to you, Tim.
I saw something from you, Matt. I wasn't sure if it was the draft or what you actually sent, but I know I saw something that you had written.
I'll send it back out.
Yeah, okay. So we still need Pam.
How's it going, Mr. Public Works? Good concentrating.
White gold.
Yeah.
What is it? Monies from heaven, you call it?
Here comes Pam. There she is.
I was here the whole time. I could hear you, but I couldn't speak.
Okay. Well, why don't we jump right in? Walter, do you want to go over anything on your chart?
Excuse me. Just a few additions, added since the last meeting, having to do with, updating. Cheryl's been working on the finance policies and the internal controls and so forth, in order to address, some of the audit concerns and so forth. And so I've kind of broken that out as kind of a priority, separate priority to get those done ahead of time. Obviously, hiring a new building and code enforcement inspector, and then added completing the road surface management system, which we're working on a schedule for that right now with the Regional Planning Commission, and hoping that that's going to get done, probably by next fall in time for budget season.
Okay, so it won't be done in time for anything related to this year's road surfacing. We go with what we originally planned. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, they actually prefer that we get our 2021 work done first, so that it's the most up-to-date information.
Okay.
Depending on, with the delay in town meeting, that may not be possible. But they'll start in the late spring, early summer.
Yeah, I have to say personally, I appreciate you breaking out some of the financial stuff from a policy and procedure perspective, because that's been on the list and relatively high in priority and we just never had the capability to do it. And I think with you and Cheryl now, we can. So I think that's good. I guess the other related question is, Beth, brought up about, doing a certain number of policies and procedures and ordinances on an ongoing basis. Does what we just did tonight indicate the start of that process, or was that just some select board stuff that you wanted to have us address immediately, so to speak, and the real work is, going to be later?
But I think we had agreed we would start probably mid-March, thinking that town meeting would be over by then, but gonna have to rethink that. But this was really just carryover from what, was actually started back in late November, early December. So that's what we finished up as far as that piece is concerned.
Okay, well,
But certainly, I've been spending quite a bit of time trying to familiarize myself with all the different ordinances and trying to determine, whether or not that they were amended
yeah,
or, deleted or whatever.
Mhm.
So that's a good, it's been number one, an opportunity for me to start to think about the organizational part of it. Number two, obviously get me more familiar with some of the nuances, that have
yeah.
come up and, been adopted over the years.
Okay. Well,
It's been interesting.
it's on your list, so.
It is.
Pam?
I have a task for Walter. Prior to April 21st, if I could get with you, Walter, the budget committee is going to ask questions regarding the 2019 status of the audit and the status of the 2020 audit. So if I could meet with you for prepping for information for that so I can field their questions properly.
Sure, I certainly want to include Cheryl in that discussion too, because she's obviously carrying the lead on the 2020 audit now, which actually starts next week. So
Yeah,
just
so if I can have information be prepped for that, that would be awesome.
let me know, what's convenient for you, and we can set up a conference call or whatever you want to do.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Just by way of procedure, Walter, it seems to me like that request is more ongoing businesses as opposed to something to add to your task list. Is that correct, or do you want this?
Well, depending on if there's some prep work involved and so forth, certainly I want to have it on the list to make sure we have it for her in time.
Okay.
So, definitely.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Plus, it is a task to meet with me.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
Looking forward to it.
Beth, did you want to ask something on this?
I have a task question
Yeah, go ahead.
about another task.
Yeah.
I feel bad, Walter. What have you been here now? What, 3 months? There you go. Here's the pile.
Hey, it's only a one-page list. I'm sure we can do better.
I know we talked about in the spring trying to sell or whatever. We have like all those town properties we were going to look at.
Yes.
I know that I spoke to you again today about someone. I told her to just contact you. That could, once you talk to Linda, I'm sure you'll have more answers for her. But I know that that's something that we were hoping to do last year. So hopefully this year we can.
So that's been very exciting. Matter of fact, I spent about 5 hours today trying to get familiar with all the outstanding tax agreements, what the status is of those. Also reviewed the list of the town-owned properties that could potentially be put out for bid. One of the other things that may help address the question that you had was that we may be able to have enough properties to have just specifically an abutters sale, where there is a provision in the policy that allows for a different process for offering tax deeded property to abutters exclusively. So I've definitely been, I had focus on dealing with those and trying to get familiar, but I want to feel more comfortable about the history. And that, as I mentioned to you, I now trying to learn about some of these nuances of, how the town came about them. If there's not a direct deed taking us to the ownership, either
Yeah.
by tax sale or whatever, owner unknown, that type of thing. So, yeah, it's been interesting, and I'm going to continue to work on that. Again, with town meeting being pushed off, I've got a little more time to be able to spend on some of those processes, and also get through some of the files that date back many, many years in my office.
Yeah, I'm sure. So Walter, I guess you made a point regarding perhaps a different process for some of the properties. Also, did you not discuss auction versus sealed bids? And are you going to make a determination on that also?
Yeah, certainly. With the abutters, sale, that would definitely be something we would do by sealed bid. We wouldn't need to go the auction route on that. Depending what the volume is of the other remaining properties that, or what doesn't sell by the sealed bid sale, the abutter sale, then that might be an option we can look at as well. It's been successful for some committees, some communities, and just as much as the sealed bid process has.
Deerfield did well. Deerfield did well with their auction.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions on the task list? Okay, if not, then why don't we move on to new business, which is the pre-audit expenditure report. Are you needing any action on this, Walter, or did you just want to review the current numbers?
It's just an FYI. I think Cheryl can advise you as far as the cutoff date and what's included in this latest report. And really just an FYI as far as where we're at. There she is.
Does anybody have any questions for Walter or Cheryl on this? This is on the expenditure report, which is part of the pack, starting about line 20 or page 20, going down to page 42.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Cheryl, but this is the final prior to the audit.
Is the final prior to the audit, correct?
So any other adjustments will be basically audit adjustments, which, shouldn't be that significant.
Well, if nobody else has a question, Cheryl, I'd just like to get some idea. I'm looking at the encumbrances, which are now at this point relatively low, $500. How comfortable are you that we caught everything? I know you're coming in, new, and there was a pile of stuff on your desk when you came in. What's your comfort level?
I'm very comfortable actually, because Greg Colby has been keeping up with this all along, and he's been doing the work on any of the 2020 stuff. I know that he did do a entry for encumbrances. I believe that it's probably an issue because the total encumbrances, of course, was more than what's showing on the report. It may be an issue of how he recorded the encumbrances and how ProFund shows an encumbrance and what they consider an encumbrance. I will have to talk to Greg. He's actually going to be in tomorrow. So
Okay.
I will ask him and make sure, but I'm very confident with that he's kept everything up to where it should be.
Okay. So this should be a pretty good number then for the end of the year result then too, by
It should be,
extension.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. So from an overall perspective, I think we managed the funds pretty well. It looks like we did okay.
Yes. Yep.
So from my perspective, I'd just like to let the other board members know that with, this kind of result, I think we will definitely want to have a discussion at next tax session, boy, I'm having trouble saying this. We need to think about how much we're going to buy back on the taxes, given that we had a good result this year. And we've actually consistently had reasonable numbers, and now this year, pretty good. The only thing I will just caution is Walter, has some experience with how to smooth things out in terms of the tax rate. And that includes, what large ticket items you buy and when, and maybe there's some other things that we want to factor in when we have that discussion. But Walter, when does that come up? That's more like September?
Oh, no, that'll be probably mid-October at the earliest.
October. Okay. So we got time to think about that.
Yes.
But
Yep.
certainly with this kind of result, we should be thinking that we're going to buy back at least some of the taxes. Okay, anything else on this? If not, we're going to move on. Walter, I guess you need a motion to request funds from the transfer station?
Yes, from the trustees, the trust fund for two items. One is for the expense of the two new containers that are actually being delivered tomorrow, I believe. And one's for the snowplow that the board approved back in December, the B bucket for the backhoe.
Yeah.
That total is together is $18,900 for those three items. The other is the reimbursement of a portion of the expense for the construction of the Bow Lake Road Bridge from the Red List Bridge Capital Reserve Fund in the amount of $112,610.78 for a total of $131,510.78.
Wait, Walter, go. I'm sorry. I think I spoke over top you. You talked about the bridge reconstruction at 112K. What was the next item?
The other was the transfer station items, which are the two
Yeah.
containers
And
and the bucket plow that goes on the front of the backhoe.
Okay, I thought you said something after the 112K for the bridge. Maybe I just misunderstood.
Nope.
Okay. Do you need two separate motions?
No, you can approve the whole thing as a total amount.
Okay, Tim has a question.
We're gonna pay for the containers before they get here?
They're being
Before we-
picked tomorrow. Yeah, that's the guy that's picking them out is delivering the check.
Okay.
East Coast.
Okay.
East
Any
Coast
other-
container, Iman's gonna pick them up, yep, okay.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this before we ask for a motion? If not, then do I have a motion to request reimbursement from the trustee of the trust funds for both the transfer station purchases and the Bow Lake Road Bridge reconstruction for a total of 130,000.
131, 510, 78.
Thank you.
Sounds like a motion, Tim.
Sure, so moved.
Okay, thank you. Second by Pam. Further discussion? Hearing none. Matt, how do you vote?
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
and Hal is yes. Anything else related to those, Walter?
Nope.
Okay, then we're going to move on to the amendment to the poll license process, and I'm going to let you take the lead on that discussion, Walter.
Very good. So we are, as a town, entitled to tax utilities for their space that they take up in our right of way. And so in order to do that, each time there's a pole set in the town, they are required to submit for a license, and you may, as your tender as a select board member, may have recalled having to sign those and so forth. And then those are kept on record with the town clerk's office. Well, recent legislation has allowed for taxing of those poles and conduits that are located in the right of way because they're using some of the town's space. So that's all well and good. The only problem is that that was never reflected in the licenses that were issued over the course of the last, 50 or 75 years. And so the utility company says, no, you can't do that because that's not what's in our license. So now the legislation allows us to issue a new license after notifying them, having a public hearing that does include the language that they will be taxed for a space that they occupy in our right of way. And in order to do that, as I say, we have to have a public hearing, and we have to get it completed before April 1st if we want to be able to do this as of the 2021 tax year. So that's the process. We're sending out the notices tomorrow, as a matter of fact, to all the utility companies that we believe exist in the town of Northwood. And then we'll schedule the public hearing for a portion of the regular meeting on March 9th. And that's pretty much what we're doing here. We've kind of missed the boat. This should have been done a few years ago, but it's not uncommon that a lot of towns didn't actually know what the process was. They thought it was automatic, and that's why we're all, dealing with abatements now, because we all just tax the utilities. And now, the majority of the towns and cities in the state are all involved in in abatement cases, because the utility companies basically has a judgment that says, listen, if it's not in a license, we don't have to pay it. So
Yeah.
so that's kind of in a nutshell, and kind of just paraphrasing what I sent you in more detailed form in your packet.
Questions, Matt? I saw you had a hand
Yeah.
up.
So the utilities aren't, I assume, pushing back too hard on municipalities changing the license language, right? Like when we hold the hearing, are we expecting much pushback? Or is it simply that they were trying to, I mean, as any good business would, utilize the system to the best of their advantage?
I would be really surprised if somebody like Eversource didn't send a letter objecting.
Okay.
Because for the same reason that they file for the abatement, they don't
Right.
want to have to pay the tax. But again, it's allowed by law as long as we adopt the proper licensing agreement. So in the future, and also this is a process that is allows us to amend all the existing licenses automatically. So
Okay.
we will
Yeah.
be able to include not only the new ones, but the existing ones as well.
Right. Yep.
Matt,
Thank you.
Matt, Tim, you had a question.
No, I answered my own head. I'm good.
Okay.
I don't expect that there's going to be a insurrection or something at the public hearing as far as this issue is concerned by the power companies, but I do expect that we probably will get a letter saying that they don't feel they feel that they shouldn't be taxed and so forth.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do this. So, but I'm sure we would want to support.
It's probably a form letter. Other questions on this? I guess my only question, Walter, is, and I think it's the same tax. Some towns set their tax rate on these things significantly higher than other towns. At least that's what I had read, and there was some attempt to force normalization on that. How does that work?
Yeah, so there is now legislation that was finally adopted that establishes the guidelines and the baseline for evaluating these utility structures. There was a big battle over poles, what's a pole worth, what's the depreciation schedule, that type of thing. And so that has finally been more so to the advantage of the utility, but and in the end, there is a resolution. So now that there is guidance in order to establish those values, and unless you want to try something contrary, which probably wouldn't hold up in an abatement case, then it's pretty standardized now.
Okay, that was my question. So we're in it with everybody else. We just need to do our due diligence and get the money.
Exactly.
Any idea how much?
I don't off the top of my head.
Now you can surprise us next year.
I don't think it's going to put us in another tax bracket, but it's because it's due us, we're entitled to it. Then obviously we
need to do it. Yeah,
absolutely.
Tim?
I thought, Mr. Scruton said something like six grand or something like that. I know we talked about Barrington and their polls or something, so you might,
Yeah, he
Send
might.
a shoot an email out to John because he talked about that earlier before he got done with us.
I have it in the office. I just don't have it accessible
Yeah.
right at this moment.
Yeah, well, when you find it, just send us.
We
a
won't make it. We won't make you drive to the office tonight. We'll be all set.
Not in the snow.
Thank you.
Yeah. Plus, the Mustang doesn't have good traction in snow, does it?
Put chains on it.
Okay, moving on. Zoning board temporary member appointment. So maybe we should let Pam speak to this. Take your mute off, please, Pam.
I will recuse and not speak.
Okay, Walter, you want to go over this then?
So evidently, this case that's coming up, there's a number of board members that have conflicts of interest, and unless there's a temporary appointment, which is allowed by statute for Thomas Johnson, then they won't have a quorum in order to hear this upcoming case. So the request is that Thomas Johnson be appointed temporarily, and that Ms. Di Matteo would like to be removed from a member to an alternate, which makes that opening available.
Okay.
So again, this is not a permanent appointment, it's a temporary appointment by a qualified former board member, I understand.
Yeah.
And it really is, it does happen, obviously, in smaller towns, especially. Occasionally you do have a case where a lot of different people have, conflicts of interest and so forth. And
So Walter, is this for the time period when this case is being heard, or is it only for this case?
it's only for this case, is the way that
Okay.
the way it's worded.
Okay. Any further questions or discussion?
We need to take two different actions, one to
One to put him back on and one to put her to alternate. Is that what you're saying?
That's my question. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That is correct.
Okay, so motion number one is which? To put her to alternate?
So I'll move to move Ms. Di Matteo to an alternate on the zoning board for the for case 20-1.
Okay. Do I have a second? Second, thank you. Further discussion?
Well, do we amend that after that's all done? She's back on. We add that in, or is that?
Oh, good question.
Matt,
Can we do that, Walter? Can we just say that once that case is over
and
she's back on?
finalized?
Or do we need to act again later?
I think if you just do it for the one case, we may have to bring it back up and move her back up to full member status, but we can address that, after this case is.
Well, let's be careful about this, because if she's not going to alternate for any of the other cases, maybe just the way Matt said it is the best way.
Well, I think it's fine the way he said it, but.
Yeah. So that gets back to my question. So let me ask it again. So let's say the zoning board is hearing 3 cases, of which this is one of them. Is Mr. Johnson going to be the vote on this case and not on the other 2?
It says this case only.
Okay. So then maybe, Tim, to that point,
I just got a, if I can say, I got a text message from somebody that she wants to be an alternate for good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Moving her down and leaving her there for now.
Okay, then that's fine. So
In that case, I'll amend my motion that we move Ms. Di Matteo to an alternate on the zoning board.
do I have a second? Okay, any further discussion? That was good. Caught that. Okay, if not, then Beth, how do you vote?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Pam?
Yep. She refused. So
Oh,
she's not right now
refused.
voting.
Okay, and then Matt? And Hal is yes, so 4-0-1. Okay, now motion to appoint Mr. Johnson for this particular case.
So I'll move to appoint Mr. Thomas Johnson to the zoning board for the purposes of case 20-1.
Do I have a second? Second, thank you. Further discussion?
So he's only acting on this case, no other cases. Okay.
Yeah, with his term to expire at the end of the case.
Yeah, okay. Further discussion? Tim, how do you vote?
Yes.
Pam? Oh, sorry, Pam's recused. Matt?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
And Hal is yes, so 401. Okay, and that's the zoning board. Walter, anything else that you thought of that we need to cover tonight? Beth, you wanted to address something.
So do we need to now put out something on the website that we need someone to join the zoning board?
It sounds like we will if she's going to a permanent alternate. That's a good point, Beth. Glad you're paying attention there. So Walter, do we have to post it, I assume?
Yes, unless, I don't know if there's another alternate that wants to be moved up to full member. That'd be something I'd have to check with Linda on.
Okay, I guess that's the way to play it. But
Pretty
if
sure we're
not,
low on alternates is my recollection.
yeah, that's what I think too. I know it's the same issue on the planning board.
I don't think there's any alternates on the piece of paper. I think it's just
Hmm,
Justin Miller, chairman, Pam, Ted, Betsy, and Brenda. You just step down.
Okay, so I guess the
We'll do what
consensus,
needs to be done.
okay, we're all set then?
Pam?
Yes.
How many people should be on the board?
I think
That's
it's 5 members on the board and 3 alternates.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Well, then let's advertise for as many as we need to get back up to a full board.
Mhm.
Okay, anything else to bring up tonight? If not, we're going to move on to citizens forum. Does anybody want to speak? I'm not seeing any indications of that. So at this point, I guess to Tim's point, we'll go into non-public specifically for the minutes. Is there anything else that we need to address, Walter?
Yes.
Okay, so then do I have what's the purpose then?
C,
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to go into non-public under 91A ... Part C.
Does Paul want to stop moving the controls to Matt?
I'll move that motion, Hal. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, let's vote and then we'll.
Yep, sorry.
So do I have a second? Second by Tim, and a roll call vote. Pam.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Matt,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
and Hal is yes. Okay, so do we need Paul after this at all, Walter?
no.
No, okay, so we're gonna pass the controls over to Matt. And then